Andrew, I'm so excited to hear what your thoughts are, and I feel like they might be the opposite of mine. I really liked the first two episodes. I thought it brought everything from the first show that I enjoyed. I think they took a risk. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's a rarity that we disagree on such a...
I know we were
aggressive
I knew we were
scale.
gonna disagree. I could probably even say the parts that you don't like and all that.
Let's play that game. Tell me what my problem is with Daredevil Born Again.
Okay, let me know how close I am here.
Are you sure I haven't talked to you? I think it's hilarious how accurate that was.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
Where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
we're your hosts,
Andrew,
and Arron.
we put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're going over the first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again.
3, 2, 1.
Action. We are back. Daredevil is back. Born Again has released. The first two episodes dropped on Disney Plus this week, and we are back. Andrew and I, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Okay. Andrew and I think he's looking for a comic. Andrew and I haven't even talked about what our reactions were for the first two episodes of Daredevil, so I'm very interested. We've done a episode a week for the last 3 weeks of Daredevil, reviewing season 1, 2, and 3 each week to get ready for this day, for this moment right now to talk about Born Again. Andrew, I'm so excited to hear what your thoughts are, and I feel like they might be the opposite of mine.
Tune in next week to find out what those thoughts are.
Got him!
So trick episode. Yeah, I kind of want to hear your thoughts first for this one, to be honest. Keep you in suspense a little bit longer.
That makes me really think that we're going to disagree. I think we're back. I really liked the first two episodes. I thought it brought everything from the first show that I enjoyed. I think they took a risk, and for me, it's paying off. I had a lot of fun. I think the action was great. I really enjoy the cinematography. I like how they are showing Daredevil's powers. And I'm still like kind of on the fence with the new characters, but I'm kind of willing to let the story play out a little bit more. Obviously, a lot happened in the first 15 minutes or so of that first episode that we'll talk about a little bit more. Obviously, spoilers if you haven't seen Daredevil Born Again. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's good to see the characters on screen. I liked kind of how brutal Daredevil was. I liked that they set the tone right away of what this series is going to be. You know, they didn't shy away from anything, and they didn't like draw it out either.
Yeah, I mean, they
like,
killed that fly right away.
This is
like,
it. Yeah.
like, this isn't a show where flies just get...
No, this isn't the Breaking Bad. You know what I mean?
This is a show where flies die.
That's right. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I have like some nitpicks that we could talk about or whatever, but overall, I had a good time. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's a rarity that we disagree on such a...
I know we were
aggressive
I knew we were gonna disagree. You weren't answering in the group chat. I saw Sierra like sent you something that said they didn't like the post.
I don't want to like make myself too obvious or give my cards away too much, but I guess if I really liked it, I probably would have been in the comments like, "Hell yeah,
yeah,
Daredevil's kicking ass again."
I knew it. I know what you thought. I could probably even say the parts that you don't like, and
let's play that game. Tell me what my problem is with Daredevil Born Again.
Okay, let me know how close I am here. One, they shouldn't have killed Foggy, especially that soon in the series. Foggy and Karen were a staple of the first 3 seasons. That is why. That is part of the reason why the show was so good, was because they developed relationships outside of just that Murdock being Daredevil and him being in the suit, but they developed Matt as a character. And then what else? You didn't like the bullseye suit. You didn't like in the Warner scene. You appreciated that it was a Warner and it was a callback, but the CGI didn't work for you. You don't like how how flippy Daredevil is, and that he transforms into the CGI character as much as he did. You want it to be more practical and grounded, like it was in the first 3 seasons. You don't like Wilson Fisk being mayor. You think that it was too big of a gap. We didn't get to see like what happened in between, him going to jail and now he's the mayor. He killed all those people. How are people okay with that? What else? You're probably not a big fan of whoever that one guy is that's like helping their campaign. He's kind of annoying. I don't really like him either. And you're upset that Daredevil has another love interest outside of Karen Page and that she's not in the season anymore, or at least seemingly not anymore.
Are you sure I haven't talked to you?
I feel like that's gonna wrap it up pretty good. I feel like that's probably spot on. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Maybe the cinematography. I'm sure you can appreciate it, but I think you're just nostalgic to how it was before.
I think it's hilarious how accurate that was.
That was good, right?
Especially the parts where you said that I appreciate that it's a oneer, but it still bothered me the way that they executed the oneer, because that's such a specific way to predict how I'm going to feel about it, but also so accurate. Because every season needs the oneer.
Yeah.
I think they jumped the gun on it a little bit, doing it in the first 10 minutes of the first episode. I think that's a lot of my complaints with the beginning of the show is like exactly like you said. Killing Foggy in the first 10 minutes is a disrespect to his character, to the actor, to the viewers. Foggy's not just a big part of Daredevil's Netflix series. That's Matt Murdock's guy. That's his best friend. I've read Daredevil Born Again. Guess what? Foggy's in it. They killed not killed. They killed his relationship, but they got rid of Marcy or whatever from that was Foggy's love interest in seasons 2 and 3 of Daredevil. She's just gone. He's got like a flirtationship with, I think, McDuffie in the first episode, this character we've never met before. I don't like the fact that they decided to introduce these new characters without introducing them. They're just put into part of the world and they show us that the characters we know have an existing relationship with them, but don't show us them meeting them or introducing them. So that goes for Cherry and McDuffie. I think it feels weird like they were shoehorned into the show and like they're being used to replace Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, because they took the existing characters that I love, that they promised were back, that they used in promotional footage to get us excited, and killed one immediately. And the other one moved to San Francisco. Very upsetting to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bigger Daredevil fan than you, so I'm like,
that's not it. You can't say that.
Maybe I'm just more in love with the original show, and so that's why. But like you said about the cinematography too, like it's different. It's the style that they're shooting in feels a lot more in the vein of modern MCU shows, which I get why they would want to match aesthetics across shows. And I'm not using that as a direct insult, saying like modern MCU cinematography just looks bad. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's not matching the look and aesthetic visually of Netflix's Daredevil, and to me makes it feel like something totally different when you've removed 2 of the main characters. Matt is not being Daredevil anymore, which I'm sure he'll be back, yada yada, but Matt is moved out of Hell's Kitchen, which is a huge part of the show and a huge part of who Matt Murdock is, and you've changed the visual aesthetic. Makes it feel like, why are we pretending this is the same world by using the same actors and using the same relationship between Matt Murdock and Kingpin, even though you've changed literally everything else about the show. They took Matt's arc of 3 seasons, which 3 seasons of Netflix. We talked about this when we reviewed season 3. Matt Murdock is saying, I feel like I may need to kill this man because it's for the greater good of society, but I don't feel like that's my call to make. And ultimately he comes out on the side that is God's decision. That's the justice system's decision. And 2 big parts of Matt Murdock's character is that he is a devout Christian and he is a Catholic type of Christianity, and a lawyer. And so he believes in God making that decision. He believes in the justice system making that decision. And then within 10 minutes of their new show, they undid the 3 seasons of his character fighting not to kill and had him immediately attempt to murder somebody right away in the beginning.
Did his heart stop?
He thought there's the point of the decision is that he thought it would.
He did that in the other seasons too. Season 1, he throws the guy off the roof and he had to stop and check to see if the heart was beating. He didn't know for sure.
He purposely dropped him into a dumpster. He had plans for that.
I'm sure he can sense that this guy has metal in his bones and could survive the fall.
So the metal in his spine somehow stopped his face from shattering against the concrete. He landed stomach face down.
Yeah, I guess so.
but also the whole
Nobody
point
lived.
the whole point of this season of this season basically entirely is that Matt said he crossed a line, meaning he intended to kill this man.
Yeah.
Like he like in those other
But I'm just
instances.
saying, like, it feels like he's kind of done that a
I
few
know.
times, you know. And
And
we
but they
talked about that
but
too.
they didn't make
Last
that
week.
a plot point though.
Yeah, right,
The plot of Netflix's series was Matt never decided to kill somebody.
right.
Matt decided against killing time
Yeah,
and time again.
yeah,
And they overturned that immediately, which feels disrespectful to the source material in a lot of ways. Not the source material, but the original show.
yeah. So I I hear your complaints and I understand them. And
It seems like you recognize that they're complaints because you saw them all before I had to say them. You saw why people would see them,
yeah, yeah.
but they didn't bother you
They didn't bother me as much. No, like I'm okay that they're
because I'm a bigger Daredevil fan.
no, I'm okay that they're making it like a newer thing, you know, and that it's kind of being made through the eyes of like different creators, and like I'm okay with that because I think they still like held on to the same feel for me. And I'm okay with him making that choice in the beginning to throw Bullseye off the roof because sometimes we are just that one moment away, you know, between making like that. What's the argument on the roof with Punisher? You know,
I
he's
think
like, you're one bad day away from being just like me.
yeah.
And like that happened. Like I think it's okay for a character to progress backwards
Yeah.
sometimes.
So I won't argue that it doesn't make sense, right? Because they gave the biggest motivation that I can imagine for Matt crossing that line. I think killing Foggy is the only thing I can imagine pushing him truly over that line. Like when he thinks there's nothing he can do to stop Fisk, he's planning on maybe killing him at the end of season 3 after Nadeem dies, but ultimately decides against it.
Yeah.
I think they gave the proper motivation. Killing Foggy, right? It's the person he probably cares about the most in the world. So that makes sense to be the one thing to push him over. I'm not okay with the timing, with doing it in the first 10 minutes of the episode. I get that
Yeah.
it sets up a plot line they have in mind for him to abandon the mask and put it back on. But if they had done that midway or like through the season and built to that, I would have sat with it a lot better than doing it immediately.
Yeah. I think it does this one thing by doing it in the beginning is that it really sets the tone for the show. And I think that's why they did it. You know, they wanted to take a big swing right away, captures people's attention, whether it's kind of good or bad, it seems. It's definitely a gutsy call. And I feel like I respect the call more so than I respect what actually happened, you know, in a way.
But doesn't it bother you that because they also wrote out Karen Page, so it seems like intentionally they're removing Daredevil from his relationships.
Okay. So I feel like if at the end of the season Karen doesn't come back at all, then I'd be more upset than I am right now.
I think she's cast for a couple more appearances.
So like if she comes back, then I'm more okay with it. But if she doesn't come back at all, I think at the end of the season I will feel kind of jaded towards it. Definitely more than I do now. Like I'm okay with kind of characters in flux, you know, like kind of moving around and whatnot, as long as they like keep their base or at least get back to their base of like who they are in a way. And I want to give the story some time to develop that before I jump to the conclusion of like, oh, like they've made a huge mistake. I do agree with you though that Foggy's death would have been maybe more impactful if they did at the end of episode 2.
Well, most people haven't seen him in almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Because it ended in 2017. So
right.
if you haven't, I just finished rewatching. I literally put on the last episode of season 3, finished that because I had been rewatching the whole show.
Yeah.
And just as I finished that, I went and watched the 2 new episodes.
Right.
But for me, it was like watching it back to back.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, it was a rewatch. But for a lot of people, they are probably just going to tune back in. They're not going to bother to rewatch 3 whole seasons. I just really love Daredevil.
Right. So I think there would have been a more emotional impact towards it rather than just shock, you know, because that's what I was feeling, you know, it was like shock, like, oh my God. Yeah. But I think if they were working together and we got to see their friendship and we get to see the old Matt and what's going on and stuff, and then that happens, and then in episode 3 we see that time jump, maybe it would have landed a little bit better for people. But I also understand why they did it right away. You know, they set the tone for the show and they went for a big swing. And it is a little bit annoying because it does kind of feel like their original plan is still their plan, like how we found out that like Karen Page and Foggy weren't in the show at all, and then
Matt wasn't in the suit for 4 episodes.
yeah, and then
They're like, oh, now he's not in the suit for 3 episodes.
yeah, they're like, oh no, we fixed it now. We got Karen Page back. We got Foggy, and he's gonna be in like these 6 or 7 different suits, and it's not just a courtroom drama, which I did think the courtroom scenes were pretty good this season so far. But it kind of feels like that's still their plan.
I was also very upset, now that you bring it up, that he took the Daredevil suit off in the first 10 minutes of episode 1, and that he's not only did he not put the Daredevil suit back on, but he didn't fight again until the last 5 minutes of episode 2.
Right.
So everything from minute 10 to the last 5 minutes of episode 2, no real action.
Yeah.
A little fight scene with White Tiger without his powers. That's it.
I was still like pretty involved in the show though, like I still was like locked in.
I don't really care about this new relationship he has with this therapist. I don't really. The Kingpin being mayor makes no sense. I get that maybe they're trying to do a modern political, allegory or metaphor, maybe not allegory, but metaphor, to represent like our current political system. And they're like, yeah, he's a criminal and he ran for office. And I'm like, that's unrealistic. And they're like, yeah, but it happened in real life, but not to this extent.
Yeah,
not nearly to this extent.
Is he mayor in the comics and stuff though?
I think Mayor Fisk is a comic thing.
Yeah, so
but that's
I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of unanswered questions at the moment. Maybe they'll answer some of it. Maybe they won't.
They need to, because one thing Sierra had a big complaint about is that they're not bridging the gap to answer questions between season 3 of Netflix's Daredevil and Born Again. Like, how is Bullseye not in prison? I know they did the surgery on him, but how is he not arrested for his crimes? How is Wilson Fisk out of prison? Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. Like, how is the city forgiving him? He already played himself off as innocent in Daredevil season 3 by manipulating the FBI. And then it came out that he was manipulating the FBI and was always guilty. So how is he pulling the wool over the eyes of the people a second time?
Did none of this get explained? I don't remember. So I'm like genuinely asking, did any of this get explained in like any of his other appearances in like Hawkeye or Echo or anything like that?
If you guys know the answer to that, let me know in the comments. It's been a while since I've watched Hawkeye, but I don't remember anything in Echo about. I mean, I watched Echo when it came out, and I watched the show in its entirety.
Yeah, because Hawkeye was his first appearance into the real MCU, quote unquote. But I don't remember anything specific of like how he is, where he is. I just remember him being way stronger than he used to be, and like throwing people through buildings. But yeah, I don't know. And we're definitely on I see your side of things. I do, but I had fun with it. I liked it, and I liked the fight scenes that we did get. I thought the opening scene was really cool. I liked how they kind of. I'm not saying I like this better than the original show, but I do like how they kind of blended his like swinging and acrobatic side from like She-Hulk. They took that and they kind of toned it down a little bit, made it a little more realistic, and then kind of blended it with the grounded kind of martial artist that he is in the original series. And I think in the comics, Daredevil's probably closer to the She-Hulk version, where he's like doing all those flips and swinging through the city and all that.
I don't like that. I don't like the look of it.
Yeah, like. But did you not like how they kind of blended it in this season so far?
I don't feel like they did a good job of blending it. I feel like he was way more on the She-Hulk side, like the movement with the Billy clubs. I feel like they took that out when they went back into season 3 of Daredevil, because it wasn't fitting for the world. It made a lot more sense to go back to the gritty style, before he could swing around like that. He looks weightless. The movement, like the swinging isn't really the worst part. The worst part is when he jumps 15 to 20 feet and his forward momentum is has a lot more progression than his downward momentum, as if he's like resistant to gravity. Like when he cuts onto the roof with Bullseye and jumps towards him, that kind of movement just doesn't look human. It looks like superhuman. And Daredevil doesn't move like that. Like in Daredevil Netflix series, he does not move like that. I like the grittier, grounded approach of him just being a human who can take a lot of punches and deal out a lot of punishment. He's very technically skilled, but he's not superhuman in that sense,
Yeah. I don't think that part necessarily looked bad. I think maybe the reason why it looked maybe worse than maybe it actually is because it was surprising. It's something that we're not supposed to see with this character in a way, you know? Like, I don't think it looked terrible. Like, it didn't look like Wonder Woman, what is it, 89?
84.
84?
Your complaint with, I think it's 84, I'm not sure. Your complaint with Thor when he does that forward moving backflip, that's the same way I feel about Daredevil's movement in the first 10 minutes of Born Again. I feel like when he zips up onto that little stairwell with his billy clubs and drops down, he moves at this really weird angle and drops super, like, there's not like the same momentum that a human would have, you know, where you would swing that way, have to kick off the wall or something. I don't know. He moves very strangely to me.
Yeah.
And then
I noticed the same parts, but it just didn't take me out as much.
with the Wonder, I just can't see what's going on that well either in this season. All the Wonders in Netflix's Daredevil was very visually clear, and all the stuff that Bullseye was throwing, it was always super clear. In this season, I'm just seeing him move his arm and then see something stick out of somebody in the first episode. I'm not seeing, it's all smoky, it's all dark, which I know is, you know, they're filming tricks, but just doesn't look as good as it. I've already seen it look better, and almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of hard not to compare it to something that had a lower budget 10 years ago.
Was the what I wonder what the difference in budget is.
I don't know that they've released it. I guess maybe I'm assuming lower budget, but it has to be.
I don't know. I mean, it's probably got to cost a lot of money. I mean, a lot of reasons why they do CGI is because it's cheaper. You know, so the it's cheaper to add extra haze and fog into a fight scene than it is to actually choreograph and do all the fights. You know, like. I mean, I'm assuming it's cheaper because of the time difference and because it's Disney.
The budget, this is, I don't know if I trust this for sure because it's from Google AI. The Google AI results are a pretty drastic difference. Says I just don't know if I want it to. I'm going to look further after this because I don't want to give inaccurate information. But Google AI says that the budget for season 1 of Daredevil was 56 million, and then for Born Again, it says it's reported that the budget for the series will be around 200 million for its first season. So 4 times as much.
It's a huge difference.
Which I would only assume it would be more. You know, everything's more now.
I would assume it's more, yeah, but that's a big gap. I do, like you, prefer the more grounded kind of fights and stuff that we saw in the original series. But I'm not ready to be like, I don't like this new season yet. You know?
I'm pretty ready to say that the quality isn't as good. What remains for me is if there's a bunch more cool fight scenes, then I might be like, I'm still glad I got it anyway. If the show really tarnishes the legacy by the end of it, then I'll probably be ready to say I wish they had never done this because I feel like it's harmful to the overall quality of Netflix's Daredevil. But I'm just waiting because the very end of the second episode had a really cool scene that I liked a lot.
Yeah. Did you like his choice?
To fight, to defend himself?
I mean, it seems like they died, right? Did they not?
I don't think he killed them. I think he just beat them really badly. Like he slammed that guy into the ground. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I feel like my first impression was that he died, or they died, that he killed him. Especially when he threw the guy into the floor and he like landed on his neck. You know, like that guy doesn't have a metal skeleton.
If they decide to go 10 toes down and make Daredevil killing a bunch of people, I could kind of be into that.
Yeah,
that could be cool. Just depending on where they go with it.
Okay, because that's like a big character development. Do you think that would like just ruin the work in the other seasons, or do you think they could do it in the right way where
I think that
redeems it in the end, kind of thing? Because I think it'd be cool. Also, like in that scenario, when he's in lawyer form, which was so badass when they entered the room and it was just him standing there, and then he like steps in their way, and that was so cool. But in that scenario, when he's got a gun to his head against these two guys, and he's not in the suit, How does he get out of that?
How amoral are those guys, by the way, for
Yeah.
without hesitation beating down
Yeah.
a blind man?
Yeah.
Without a second thought. Not the other guy wasn't like, "Hey man, chill out, he's blind." They're just like, "No, we're gonna beat this guy down.
Yeah.
We're gonna beat the bricks off of this blind man."
But like, how does he get out of that scenario
He has to defend himself.
without everyone knowing he's Daredevil at that point?
That's what I thought was going to be the trouble in the upcoming episodes. But if he killed them, I guess there's a different problem, which is that we have an unhinged Matt Murdock.
Yeah. Which it feels like that's kind of where it was going, right? With
Yeah.
the events of the first episode, that it's easy for him to slip right now.
I mean, you could argue out of it with the same way that they got out of him fighting kids when he was in the orphanage, which is that they don't want to admit that they got their asses kicked by a blind guy. That's what they said when he was fighting people as a kid.
Yeah.
So he was showing his powers then.
I don't know if adults would care. If I think they'd have more to gain by saying who it is than holding up pride of like, I just got beat by air.
Or the show has someone totally different kill them, which is what they have done in the past.
Right. I enjoy the cinematography of the show. What do you think of the cinematography?
Don't like it.
Why?
It screams to me of the issues that I've talked to you about in the past of just overly clean. Like it I wouldn't say it's bad. I don't think it's bad. I just don't love it. And what the main thing I don't love about it is that it's not matching the Netflix series. That over anything else. Like
So objectively though.
Objectively in a bottle, I wouldn't say I hate it, but it doesn't look stylized. Like,
that's crazy.
What is stylized about I mean, specifically the lighting is what I'm talking about.
I think the lighting is stylized.
There's cool camera movement.
I think the lighting's stylized. I mean, at the end of the first episode, he's like walking through the city and you got all the haze and the people around him, and we got all the lights of the city. And then like as he's like kind of looking up into the sky, hearing someone getting beat up behind him, like the red flashes on him from the side. Like that was so cool. It filled up the whole frame, just like a comic panel. And at the same time, they're showing Wilson Fisk up on the rooftops covered in white light as if he's like the white knight of the show because he just got elected mayor. Like that was really cool. And then the shot where they're in the bar and he hears Foggy go outside.
Oh yeah, the aspect ratio change.
That was sick.
They opened up the aspect ratio to full screen and then they narrowed it back down to widescreen.
I heard from the I guess director of the show or showrunner or whatever that they had a 3 camera rig set up and they had like different focal lengths so they can like kind of pan and like match it in post. And I think that's so cool. Like they had like the zoomed in one and then it kind of goes out to the wide so it can go all the way up to the tops of your screen. And then they had a long lens on Foggy so then it can like shift and zoom in right past him. And they're also doing like a dolly zoom at the same time. And I was like, this is really cool. And it's showing his powers really well. And I think that what they do when we kind of get into his POV of the sounds that he's hearing, they get real close to his ear, like things kind of zero in. I feel like they've done that more in this 2 episodes than they have in like maybe a whole season of a show.
No,
they've done at least
that's way off.
It stuck out to me a lot more that they're really emphasizing how much he's using his powers on the day-to-day basis outside of the suit.
Because I just watched the first 3 seasons on Netflix and they do it all the time. Like they're not doing the dolly zoom. I want to kind of refine my answer though to what you said. And this is kind of how I feel about the episode story wise too, I guess, is that similar to a lot of the other MCU shows, there are like nuggets, moments of gold, and then on average, I feel like it's largely not as good. And that's my problem with the cinematography is I'm thinking about the average scene, and a lot of these scenes like the coffee shop date, the scenes in Matt's apartment, the scenes at McDuffie and Murdock law offices. A lot of these are just lit like rooms and they have that super clean, visually aesthetic look where the camera is like these 8K, 4K quality cameras and everything looks super sharp and it's missing all the grit. And I know you have your complaints about Netflix's Daredevil and you don't like that they use so much grain. You don't like that.
Well, I don't know what kind of cameras specifically they shot on, but it's very grainy and the shadows are not very dark in some instances where like my TV's like picking it up as like just grain and noise. And I don't like that as much. It's like
I like
more
it.
to me, it's more distracting than it is stylized.
Well, I like it. I feel like
It makes it feel really dated, but not in a dated vintage way, but in a dated like, oh, this is like an old 2000 show.
to me it gives the show a textured feel, and it gives uh especially Hell's Kitchen this dirty grungy feel. Between that and another thing I know you don't like, the yellow lighting, the use of yellow or green lights, I think makes Hell's Kitchen feel like dirty, grungy, it makes it feel like a really bad area, bad neighborhood. And with like maybe the lower quality visual aspects make it feel like a lower quality area, and I really really love that, and I really wanted
They
them.
don't do that on purpose because they're in the nicer parts. They're not like on nicer equipment and lighting and stuff.
No,
They're
they,
like,
they they are on nicer lighting. Like if you in season 2 in the richer locations that Elektra goes to like meetings at this rich boardroom, like it's not there's no yellow lights. It's bright white lighting. It's not probably not nicer cameras, but the lighting is totally different in the wealthy affluent areas in season 2 for sure. Or in Wilson Fisk's penthouse in season 3, I'd say the same thing. They're not using the yellow lightings. Traditionally in like the poorer areas in Hell's Kitchen, they have these like opaque windows that they're shining a yellow light or purple light or something through, and I really like that feel in Netflix. I know that we differ on that, but I I like you said, the peak camera work moments of Born Again, these 2 episodes have been really cool. I thought that you forewarned me that there was a cool opening. There's some cool cinematography stuff, and I like that aspect ratio change, the dolly zoom. It was really cool. Um, they did some cool shot movements as well. Obviously, the oneer has a ton of movement going up the stairs with Bullseye. The shot from the roof that like trucks backward away from Daredevil and Bullseye, and then tilts down and looks at Foggy dying on the street with Karen. Super super cool shot. But then they throw in shots like the mask falling shot from the trailer that's 100% CGI. And that always kind of throws me for a loop because it doesn't feel like the flavor of the original show when they do stuff like that. Um, Not to say there was no CGI in the original show, but like a shot that's fully fake, takes me out of the show a little bit. And like I'm just the average shot. Like there are really cool shots. I like the shot where the fly gets pinned to the wall by the paperclip and like the lights twitching.
CGI.
That's like a darker shot. Yeah, I know, and it looks good, but that was a very workable amount of CGI in this like close up shot. Whereas the wides with the cityscape, the use of the volume, all this stuff they're doing with the cinematography, that's like making this big world look so fake. Whereas whenever they used green screen or CGI on rooftops in Netflix's series, I always was like trying to look at it with a microscope. Like, are they on a roof in New York right now? Because it looks really, really good.
I mean, it does look really good, but I don't think this one looks bad.
And they just keep cutting to the same rooftop shot of the same building, like that one that Wilson Fisk was standing in front of. I also think they're going a little too heavy on the haze and smoke. I mean, obviously in the smoke canister scene, they're doing it for a reason with the oneer, but like the streets are like a health hazard in this show. Like the streets have so much smoke on them, and then the
Yeah.
rooftop with Wilson Fisk, it is an obscene amount of smoke and haze. Like they're like pumping it. Like they're gonna people in New York are gonna have health problems.
It's just a foggy night.
It's Foggy Nelson. He's dead. But there's so much, and it feels heavy-handed to me,
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't mind it though.
which is weird for me to say it's not stylized and then say it's heavy-handed.
Yeah.
So I see your critique of me saying it's not stylized. It's just it doesn't feel
It's not
stylized.
stylized. It's not a style that you like. Kind of like
Yeah.
I don't like the style of the original as much as you do.
But I feel like it doesn't feel stylized in some scenes. Like in the scenes indoors in the law office just feels
Like a
well
law
lit.
office.
Well lit, and
Like a law office. They've moved up in the world. They're out of Hell's Kitchen. They're in a nicer law firm. They have what seems to be a lot more employees now.
but it felt more stylized, and by they you mean Matt, because everyone else has been fucked off the show. But the in Melson and Murdock in the original series, like it felt like they had the same tone in that building, and that was because it was going to be in the show a lot. And this new law office is going to be a lot of scenes in the show.
Yeah, but that office was pretty crappy.
Yeah, I liked it. It had character. I also feel like I don't like these new characters that are just being forced. I feel like they're being forced on me. They're like them.
They are being forced on you. And I don't know how I feel about all the new characters yet, you know? But I don't feel negative enough towards them to be like, I don't like the show, and I think they've ruined Daredevil.
I also think that one guy who went to see the therapist and get his book signed by her, the character who was like we're first seeing there,
like the younger kid.
Yeah, I think that might end up being Muse. I'm not sure yet.
I've seen some speculations on that too.
Yeah.
I mean, who else would he?
They seem like
really
they
show
way too much
be.
camera focus on him for him not to be Muse.
Yeah,
because they showed him twice before he even came up and got his book signed. So they showed him
Right.
3 times.
right. I do like that part too, where there's like these other kind of hero vigilante villains kind of floating around the city, but they're not getting like a ton of screen time, you know, like we're still focused on Matt Murdock.
It feels like
And-
we're getting so far away from like the grounded nature of Hell's Kitchen though. Like we've got White Tiger with his magic amulet. You know, it feels to me a little bit out of place for Daredevil's world. And I get that they did Defenders with people with like superhuman powers, but that was in Defenders, you know, like they brought Punisher into Daredevil. They didn't bring Iron Fist into
What's the
Daredevil.
difference though?
Different show.
No, it's like all together.
Matt entered that show. Like you can absolutely, in my opinion, watch seasons 1 through 3 of Daredevil.
So you're saying a little amulet is too much of like supernatural stuff?
It's a magic.
But if he goes somewhere else, then it's okay.
It's a magic amulet.
Yeah.
Also, like I kind of ignore that season 3 of Defenders happens, and I'm not saying that like the Netflix series was perfect. You know, that's an element I don't love about it. I don't love that. I don't really like the Defenders series very much. I don't like the stuff with the hand where Nobu gets reincarnated. I complain about that in season 2 also. So like magic elements to me just don't fit this world.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like that's
like Daredevil's
just how the character is. You know,
Daredevil's powers are loosely science based.
That's how
very loosely.
I mean he takes on damage more than any other human can. You know, like it's not 100% grounded. You know, and I don't think you're saying that it is either. But I don't know if
There's a limit
how the comics are too. Do you not like that in the comics? Like when other characters or villains show up that have powers or magic?
I haven't read a whole lot of Daredevil comics, to be honest with you. I mean, I wouldn't know totally.
You've read some. Have you not enjoyed those ones?
I've only read Daredevil Born Again and Daredevil Yellow, and in both of those, he's not really dealing with supernatural entities. I guess the owl is in Daredevil Yellow, but it's like still. I mean, comics are also you can't totally compare the feel. Like comics are a lot more fantastical. Like I said, like the hand.
The MCU is fantastical, and he's been in the MCU this whole time.
Not really the whole time.
I mean, like they've referenced the events of the Avengers.
Yeah, but the MCU hadn't referenced them until like well after that.
The show Daredevil was made in the context of being in the world of the MCU.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that his
power beings and stuff existed. So you would think that eventually, at some point, he's going to run into those characters.
But if Thanos pulled up in Daredevil season 3, I would be like, "This is stupid," regardless of if it's in the MCU or not.
Yeah, but he hasn't. White Tiger has, and we haven't even seen him use his powers yet. And you said you didn't like it,
and I don't. I'm saying so, but like
it's not like that big of a stretch, you know. Like I know you said you didn't like the hand stuff, but all that was magic and stuff too.
And I don't like it.
Yeah, but do you hold it against the series?
Yes, I absolutely do. We talked about it at great length in our season 2 episode, how I don't like the entire second half of season 2 because of stuff like that.
So where does that leave you?
With this one critique about Daredevil Born Again. I don't like. I don't
seem like one critique.
Well, in this context of this conversation, it leaves me with this particular critique about Daredevil Born Again, where it bothers me when the Daredevil universe stretches away from like the grounded approach and puts in these magical elements or spiritual superhuman elements. You know, like I get that his radar sense is superhuman, but it's a totally different context to me than having like somebody with a magic amulet. Like that sounds silly next to the rest of the gritty nature. Like we talk about this all the time on the show. It's like people say like, oh yeah, well like he can do this and this, but it's like my suspension of disbelief has to be tested by certain things. It has to, otherwise anything can happen anywhere. And I have to put the line somewhere when I'm watching a particular show. So this is where I put the line for Daredevil. And it's like right on this side of the line is him being able to like smell what somebody had for breakfast. And on the other bad side of the line is like a magic amulet. And that's just where my line is.
Fair enough. Your line.
And maybe your line's a little bit further, and maybe Zach's line's further, and the audience at large's line is a little bit further. But I have very particular stakes and feelings for this show. Like if they decided to announce tomorrow that they're doing season 6 of Breaking Bad, I would have very high expectations.
Yeah.
And Daredevil is another one of my favorite shows of all time. So I want them to do justice. Like I said, even if we just get a couple.
There's still time for them to do justice. You know, like you didn't like season 2's ending, the last 4 episodes. That's a big chunk of the season, but you still hold the series as one of your favorite series and one of your favorite shows. You know, so there's still time for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean they could
make it worse though.
Yeah, they could have a bad first half and a great second half. And
Yeah,
it could still be fantastic, even without Foggy, even without Karen Page. Maybe they do such a good job writing it that I love. I love McDuffie by the end of the season, and Daredevil has a bunch of awesome fight scenes and a cool character arc. And I'm like, Born Again was actually really good.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's just what I'm seeing from the opening seems like they're not paying a lot of reverence to Netflix's Daredevil, and I think that's going to irk me one way or another if they don't change my opinion about that.
Yeah, I think, or I was watching another interview, and the showrunner or someone in charge of like the shows of either Marvel or Disney or both was saying that both Foggy and Karen are coming back for next season. So I don't know if that's flashbacks or
that'd be really cruel if
someone
Foggy
gets revived or what, you know, like but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can look up that interview after this.
Yeah, apparently there was a fan theory that Foggy's in witness protection, and not actually dead. I thought if anything, if Foggy would come back, that it would be in flashbacks.
Right. That was my immediate thought too.
That he would be back for flashbacks. Because I would, to me, that would.
Unless if he travels to the Arrowverse and gets in that pond or whatever that heals them, maybe that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, it's like what Ra's al Ghul swims in.
Right.
The pit, the Lazarus pit.
Yeah.
But I think that it would soften the blow if they at least did flashbacks for Foggy, because then the actor would get to come back, and that would make me feel a little bit better. Like they didn't just discard him as an actor when he made such a big difference.
The stuff with Foggy's, I don't know his actor's name.
I couldn't tell you.
But he was on like the red carpet and stuff, and they're like, "How does it feel to be back?" And he's like answering. It's like, oh man, poor guy.
Feels like I'm dead. Eldon Henson.
It was good. I worked for a day.
Less than a day. That was a quick wrap. A few lines in the bar, a few lines outside, boom.
Yeah, it was probably a day.
Oh man, that was rough.
Yeah.
But maybe he is still alive somehow. I mean, there's crazier things have happened in the show than somebody surviving a bullet wound to the chest, you know?
Yeah.
Like how unbelievable it is that Bullseye's still alive.
Right. Because he broke his back, right? Is that how it ended?
In season 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
or do you mean
I'm talking about falling off the like 5 stories.
Yeah. Well, he's like Wolverine at that point.
Wow.
He's got the same skeleton. I don't know, man.
They just worked on his spine. I thought his spine got broken in Daredevil season 3, so they repaired his spine. That's all I'm aware of him getting. Not like superhuman abilities to heal.
Yeah, but that's cooler. Go with that.
Need some kind of explanation for this.
Any other thoughts on Born Again?
I mean, do you have any critiques for it?
Yeah, I thought I've already kind of said them. You know, like I don't know if killing Foggy was the right move, and I don't know if it was the right move right away. I think maybe it would have had more an emotional impact, like at the end of episode 2. Like if that's how we ended this like first premiere, you know, like I would have been wrecked. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Did it bother you that Wilson Fisk is like being forgiven for all his crimes, and not only that, being made mayor of New York City?
I mean, yeah, that bothers me, but it doesn't bother me in the like, oh no, this doesn't make any sense in the story. It bothers me of like, how could they let this happen kind of thing, you know?
That sounds like it's just achieving what the story intended for you then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more of a compliment than anything.
Right.
It bothers me like that it just doesn't make sense to me that like he would even be eligible. But
I think a part of me understands, or at least acknowledges, that this kind of is just like a soft reboot, you know? And like in a way, I don't want to say like I'm okay with it, because like that's what I would have preferred to happen, but I'm okay in the sense of like willing to give it more of a chance, because I do like the characters, I do like the actors, um, and I am enjoying the cinematography and stuff. If I had it the way that I actually wanted to, we would have just brought everyone back who worked on the Netflix stuff, showrunners, directors, cinematographer, everyone, the writers
Even though
especially.
you hate the lighting and the grain?
Yeah, I'm sure you can still like adjust and update
Don't you assume they'd
your
do it the same?
style.
Don't you assume they'd keep doing it the same way?
I'd imagine that they would adjust it a little bit, but keep it mostly similar. Yeah.
One other thing that bothered me was the conversation with Wilson Fisk.
It's a style thing. Like this, I don't like the style of some of the lighting that they use because I don't like how that light looks in like an edit or a film, like I don't like editing that light. I don't like the way that it looks. It's not like that was bad cinematography. You know what I mean? So it doesn't bother me too much that that's what the show looks like.
Mhm.
Like there's some cinematography stuff in Breaking Bad that I really don't like at all. Uh, like it's like they have a really harsh hair light all the time, and sometimes it's distracting because it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the times when the camera switches angles, the hair light obviously switches angles, and like it takes me out of it sometimes, and they have a lot of kind of yellow and green light too, and I don't
Bro,
like that
bro
that
is the
much.
enemy of the yellow light.
Um,
Number one hater of the yellow and green
but
light.
like it doesn't make me like the show less if the cinematography was a little different and more of my like preference. Maybe it would make me like that aspect of the show more, you know? But it's not bad in the sense of like, oh, like they just did a bad job. So like I can't watch this kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of room in between. I can't watch this,
Yeah.
and like, great, you know.
Yeah.
I one other complaint I do want to talk about before we wrap here is I didn't like the dynamic of the conversation between Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk in the diner, because the dynamic was like,
That was so good.
it was like, hey, I believe in retribution, but I'll be watching you. And the Matt Murdock that I know from just recently watching all 3 seasons of the show had no room left for trust in Wilson Fisk, to the point where he was willing to break his one rule to kill him.
What did you want him to do in that situation though?
To not say, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, because that makes no goddamn sense. No
But
fucking
what do you
clue.
want him to do?
To not say that.
So just not say that one line and everything else would have been fine?
That's the main problem of the conversation. The whole crux of their sit down conversation is Matt being like, let's sit down and chat. Like, Matt would never need to have that conversation with Wilson Fisk. He would just not trust him. He'd be, all right, Karen Foggy, let's go look into seeing how we can like prove that he's like committed these crimes. Let's look into making sure what he's doing. That conversation is so disingenuous. Like, why would Matt even ever think that he was going to do good? Matt's seen him do horrible things, be the reason for Miss Cardenas being killed, try to have Karen killed multiple times, try to like have an attack instituted on the bulletin where where a bunch of his friends almost died. Foggy got knocked out. Like, he's had Wilson Fisk framed him, ruined his life as Matt Murdock, tried to make Daredevil look like a murderer. Like, there is no earthly way that he would sit down and have this calm, collected conversation like they're old friends. That makes no sense. They're not old friends. They're old fucking enemies.
But outside of talking, though, what is he supposed to do? Just go show up to his house as Daredevil and beat him up?
Just, I'm not saying like, I'm not like giving you my pitch for what to replace that scene with. I'm saying cut that fucking scene. That scene doesn't need to be in there at all. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to replace it with anything. It's just not a necessary scene. What does it do? Like, people, they wanted it to be a cool conversation where they sat down and talked, and they get the heat shot of the villain and the hero having a talk at a diner, like De Niro and Pacino. But like, it doesn't do anything other than that. It doesn't do anything but like, I don't know, set stakes or set like tension, or like, it didn't do anything. It wasn't necessary. It didn't move on to the next thing in the plot.
Okay. I think it sent tension, and I enjoyed watching them interact with each other.
Do you think it makes
And
sense? Like, why would, like, it doesn't
if I've learned anything from the past few years of politics in real life, politics don't make sense. So,
for
like,
Matt. Matt's not a politician.
I know, but like, what is he gonna do? Like, he wanted to go talk his mind. He said his mind, and sometimes conversations don't directly lead into the next scene, you
Yeah,
know?
but
Like,
Matt could it makes sense for him to show up and threaten him. It doesn't make sense for him to show up and like laugh with him and make jokes with him and then tell him like I believe that you can change. Like that does none of that makes
yeah,
sense.
but like that's part of his religion that you said that you admire.
Why didn't he do that in the previous seasons?
It's been 6 years. Maybe he's trying to grow a little bit, or I don't know. Like,
How much do you have to grow to forgive somebody for trying to kill your closest friends and you?
I don't know. I'm not a religious man, but I'd imagine someone who is as religious as he is that he's always trying to be better in the eyes of God or whatever, and try to do the right thing as the Bible says to do,
But he
whatever that
but
is.
he's also like
So the Bible does say that you forgive and that you offer grace, like he was saying. So, but he also did kind of threaten him in a way. He was like, if you, like, as soon as you step out of line, like, I'm going to be there. Like,
but he's also like a lawyer and who believes in protecting the city of New York. Like how much forgiveness do you give before it becomes just willful neglect and allowing the city to be harmed? You know, that's not a benefit he extended to him in past seasons
I don't
because
know if he's like 100% like forgiven stuff personally, but like in this moment, there wasn't anything that he could necessarily do about it. Like he's saying that he believes everyone deserves like a second chance. He's not saying like, hey, everything you did to me personally and everything you did to my friends personally, like
well, this isn't
we're cool. I'm cool with that.
it's
We
really
forgive it.
generous to call it a second chance. Like this is like his 10 millionth chance. You know what I mean? Like
I know it
that's what
is.
I mean. That's what I mean by willful ignorance. It's like a second chance is, you know, moral and kind and good hearted, but a millionth chance is just stupidity.
Yeah, but he's also not in a position to do anything else about it.
But to
Like
then be in a position to not like joke and cut up with this
like
guy.
it sounds like you just don't want. Well,
I don't want them to be friends. It doesn't make sense.
I didn't get the vibe that they were
They
friends.
were like laughing with each other and sitting down having coffee together. I know that he threatened him or whatever at the end, but it's the tone of it is just not appropriate for the relationship they had in the previous show. What?
No, I think that it's not that far off from the relationship that they've had in the past. They've had multiple conversations that have lasted a long time in the show.
I will play the conversation in season 2 of Daredevil in the prison with you, and then this conversation, and like you give me a percentage on how much they match up. Because the end of the conversation in the prison, first of all, he's threatening him. Daredevil's threatening him the whole time. Threatens Vanessa, threatens him. Then Wilson Fisk picks him up, slams his face into the table like 3 times, and Matt limps out. This conversation, they're like, "Haha, your other self might not disagree." Like there's a little bit of tension, but like his attitude is like acting like he thinks Wilson Fisk might be able to change when everyone knows he's not, especially Matt. Matt, better than anybody, knows he's not able to change.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't have as big of a problem with that conversation as you.
I wish Bullseye was here. Kill this fly. Yeah, no, I have a huge problem with it. That's one of the more upsetting things across the episodes for me.
Yeah, I think too. Like, I think when you're watching things, you look for things to be wrong more than I do, and then I think maybe you find them because you're looking so hard for them to be wrong.
I think I'm just analyzing whether to look for good or bad stuff. I mean,
And like,
all the good stuff you said about the cinematography, I also noticed too.
you didn't. You said you didn't like the cinematography besides like some moments that are cool at some
Yeah,
point.
but I'm able to
Like
name out all the
it's
stuff
like
that I thought was cool.
Disney cool, like
I'm,
it's not good.
I'm
Like you
able
said, it wasn't stylized, and then after talking it
okay,
out, you're like, okay, yeah, like maybe it is
but I
stylized.
just said that I noticed all the stuff that you thought was cool. As in, I'm able to pick out and name the stuff that you thought was cool. I just happen to also notice stuff that I didn't think was cool. I told you I'm analyzing it, so I'm looking for the good and the bad. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, yeah,
I feel like personally, I'm pretty unbiased about stuff. I might hold certain stuff to a higher standard. Everyone seems to think I'm not biased about stuff, but like if new Batman thing comes out, that doesn't mean I'm going to automatically like it because I'm Batman. If a Batman fan, if a new Daredevil show comes out, doesn't mean I'm going to like it because I'm a Daredevil fan. I
yeah.
feel like people have been really, from what I've seen a little bit online, people have been pretty easy on Daredevil Born Again. Like they've been really soft on it and not complaining about the issues that I think are glaringly obvious in the show.
I think I've seen about the same, like, positive reviews and reactions versus like the negative reviews and actions, I
Yeah.
think.
I really don't think I went into it looking to find stuff wrong with it. I think that the stuff that was wrong with it was just very apparent.
Mm,
And Sierra also like had all the same issues with it that I did.
yeah.
I think that we're maybe have different levels of I think you're more maybe accepting of stuff, you know, and maybe
Yeah.
I'm harsher,
Yeah.
meaner.
I don't know. I see it as, and not that you don't see it this way too, but I see it as like an art, and the main purpose of the art is for the creators to create it, and then the second to that is for the audience to experience it. And when I was experiencing it, I was having a good time, you know? So overall, I like it.
I wasn't having that good of a time between the whole length of time where like nothing very Daredevil like was happening. It was just like a whole lot of talking.
I'm sorry you felt that way. I had fun. I mean, there was a lot of talking in the original show, but I think they did balance it with more action.
How would you compare it to the original show? If the original show is 5 stars, how would you compare it?
I mean, we only have 2 episodes, so a 3.
I mean, I would probably say the same.
Yeah,
It's a pretty stark drop, 2 whole stars.
yeah. I mean, I've seen what 29 episodes almost of the the original versus 2, so there's just a lot more to like go off of. I think they're heading in a okay direction. A lot of your complaints about like the fights and stuff, I see and understand and would prefer the other way, but I'm willing to just kind of see how they play it out here. Maybe we'll see some cool stuff that we didn't see in the original, but right now I like can't put it above the original if that's what you're asking.
No, I didn't think, and no, I wouldn't have thought that you would have.
Yeah.
Would have had to get you on meds or something.
If you pay for them.
But yeah, I mean, I think a 3 is fair. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think it's shit. Well, cause
Yeah.
I don't like, I think it's decent, which is what I think like a 3 stars is. I just think it's not matching the same quality. Like Charlie Cox is still amazing. Vincent D'Onofrio is still amazing. It's still cool to see this Daredevil suit. It's still cool to see Daredevil fight. And I'm just glad to see Charlie Cox back, but
I,
it's not the same.
and this doesn't necessarily make it any better or worse as like a Daredevil show, but this is better than anything we've seen recently from
Yeah.
the MCU, and that is nice.
Yeah, I'm just surprised you would knock
like,
it down 2 stars when you seem to have such few
maybe like
complaints about it.
maybe like a 3.5. Maybe like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, because it seems
If
like you have very like
we did
little
that.
negative to say about it.
I mean, part of it too is like being on a podcast, and it's better if we don't agree. But I mean, it's not like I'm lying. I believe everything I'm saying. I'm just choosing to focus on the positive side of what I like, you know?
Yeah,
But yeah, like there's things I didn't like about it and things I like about the other seasons better,
I mean, like
you know?
one of us is a big Daredevil fan, one of us is like medium Daredevil fan. You know,
No. No. Anything else you want to say about Born Again?
That's it for me. I want to know in the comments though, what you guys think about this. Like,
Daredevil knocking
who
on.
are you siding with more? Because like, Aaron's not saying it's the best show ever. I'm not saying it's the worst show ever. But Aaron's obviously on more of the approval side. I'm more on the disapproval side so far. Like Aaron's been saying a lot, still a lot more show to come. Where do you guys sit with the first 2 episodes, and which one of us do you agree with more so? Thanks, Miles.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys about this, and Andrew and I can join in the comments with you and kind of pick apart these first 2 episodes. Like I said, we did a full series recap. We broke it down by season, so we have 3 full episodes breaking down season 1, 2, and 3. So if you want to check those out, go ahead. Our first one was a lot of fun. We had Zach on the show for that one, and the other 2 were also fun, but it was just us. So I don't know, maybe a little treat in the first one there. But yeah, we post new full episodes every Monday and Thursday. We have Invincible just kind of wrapping up too. So we were talking about that. So if you're a fan of Invincible, be sure to check out those episodes.
We'll probably have to do Conquest next.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to talk about it, you know. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We post every Monday and Thursday. Make sure you hit that like and subscription button. We have a Discord that you can join in on the conversation even more. We haven't talked too much about Daredevil yet, but I'm assuming more people have seen it by this point. So I'm sure this week we'll kind of talk about it a little bit more, as well as Invincible for those who have seen it in the Discord. So if you want to join in on the conversation, click that link in the description description of this video. Andrew's going to let you know how much that costs though, because he's the money man.
Oh yeah. I mean, Matt Murdock probably could afford it now that he's moved up in the world.
That's right. He's got nicer lights, less noise, less green.
Illuminate the entire room.
That's right.
He can probably avoid the lofty expense of it's totally free.
Yeah, it's totally free to join.
Easy access club, guys.
Yeah.
And then if you want to check out our we're not desperate. We are desperate.
I'm desperate. I don't know about you, but I need this to work.
But if you want to check out our short form content, we post daily on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. Been really busy on Instagram lately. Make sure to check us out on there and see Arron's controversial takes on shows like Invincible and Daredevil. Make sure you stay up to date on all that stuff. But yeah, we post on there all the time. And then make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any extra stuff we happen to put out. We might have some extra stuff in the next couple of weeks that we're trying to get out. So make sure you don't miss any of that stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. And
that's a wrap.